Welcome, beautiful Sigma ladies. Some women move so differently, the world doesn't realize they're rewriting the rules until the dust settles. Sigma females are exactly that kind of woman. Not loud, not dramatic, not attention-hungry, but somehow the one everyone keeps trying and failing to figure out. And here's the wild part. According to behavioral research, people are 60% more drawn to individuals who don't seek validation. Yet Sigma females remain completely unaware that they're the unintentional gravitational pull in every space they enter. They think they're just living quietly. Meanwhile, everyone else is running psychological diagnostics trying to understand why this woman doesn't play the same game as the rest of the planet. That's the paradox. Sigma females don't understand how much power they carry because they've never needed to announce it. They don't realize their silence exposes people, their standards unsettle people, and their independence makes certain folks rethink their entire existence. And while they're just trying to drink water and mind their business, someone somewhere is probably saying, "There's something about her. I can't place it, but it's stressing me out." This introduction is your window into the world of what Sigma females don't even know about themselves, the truths they carry unintentionally, the impact they never calculate, and the influence they never signed up for. Get ready. You're about to see the side of Sigma females even they haven't noticed yet. Number 1. They underestimate how intimidating their emotional clarity is. Sigma females rarely realize just how striking their emotional clarity is to everyone around them. They don't overthink reactions or inflate feelings unnecessarily, and they don't get lost in other people's drama. Their emotions are precise, measured, and unapologetically honest, which is something most people are utterly unprepared for. While many people flounder in ambiguity, struggling to express what they truly feel or hiding behind excuses, the Sigma female knows exactly where she stands. She doesn't bend to fit a situation, she doesn't manipulate, and she doesn't tolerate nonsense. That straightforwardness, simple as it sounds, is quietly terrifying to others. It's not about being cold or detached. It's about having a mental clarity and self-ownership that others can't match. When a Sigma female communicates how she feels, there is no hidden agenda, no passive-aggressive undertone, no need for people to guess. That level of transparency exposes others' inconsistencies and insecurities in ways she doesn't even notice. People around her often feel vulnerable without realizing why. They aren't used to someone who can calmly, without anger or dramatics, pinpoint the truth of a situation and express it without compromise. Her emotional honesty is like a mirror that reflects reality sharply, and not everyone can handle that reflection. Even more, Sigma females rarely explain themselves. They don't feel obligated to justify their feelings to anyone who cannot meet them at the same level of self-awareness. That quiet confidence in their emotional position makes people overanalyze, second-guess, or even avoid them because it is impossible to manipulate or intimidate them with drama. They underestimate the psychological weight they carry just by being in touch with themselves, because they see it as normal, while the rest of the world sees it as a rare, almost unnerving kind of power. Their emotional clarity isn't just a trait, it's a force that changes the energy in a room, whether they intend it or not, and they often remain blissfully unaware of the subtle authority it grants them. Number 2. They don't see how much self-respect they radiate without saying a word. Sigma females carry a quiet kind of authority that most people fail to notice until they're confronted with it. They don't need to announce their standards, assert dominance, or demand respect. It's not something they try to project. It's simply there, woven into the way they move, speak, and respond to the world. Every decision they make, every boundary they set, signals an unshakable understanding of their own worth. They walk through life with a sense of inevitability, a calm confidence that says, without words, that they will not compromise themselves for anyone or anything that doesn't meet their standards. People notice it immediately, often before they even meet her fully, and it's quietly intimidating. This self-respect is not performative. They aren't showing off or looking for admiration. They just know who they are and what they will tolerate, and that knowledge radiates outward. Someone who is used to measuring their value through external validation will feel small and uncertain around a Sigma female, even if she hasn't said a single confrontational word. Her presence alone communicates boundaries so clearly that people instinctively adjust their behavior, often without realizing why. It's an invisible authority that shapes interactions subtly but powerfully, and it's a skill most people spend their lives trying to fake or manufacture. Sigma females often don't realize how magnetic this makes them. They see themselves as private, independent, or even aloof, but in reality, their self-respect draws people in while simultaneously keeping the wrong energy away. They have an innate way of separating themselves from drama, toxic influence, and manipulation, not by force, but simply by being unapologetically themselves. People feel both drawn to and cautious around them because there is no ambiguity, no compromise, and no space to undermine or disrespect them without immediate consequences. It's a natural filter, a silent power that works constantly, reshaping every interaction, and they usually remain unaware of the effect they have, thinking they are just living their life. The truth is, the way they honor themselves teaches everyone else how to treat them without ever saying a word. Number 3. They don't notice how many people copy them while pretending not to Sigma. Females rarely realize the subtle ripple effect they have on everyone around them. They move through life following their own instincts, making choices based on clarity and self-respect, and rarely care what others think. Yet, without even trying, they become templates for behavior, style, and mindset. People notice the way they hold themselves, the decisions they make, and the unshakable calm they carry, and suddenly, others are unconsciously mimicking them. It's not admiration in the obvious sense. There are no fanfares or overt flattery, but a quiet, almost desperate attempt by others to replicate the aura of confidence and independence that comes so naturally to the Sigma female. This influence is subtle, almost invisible. Someone might adopt a phrase she uses, change their posture, or rethink the way they handle confrontation, all without acknowledging where the inspiration came from. Sigma females don't see it because they're not trying to lead, teach, or influence. They are simply being themselves. Yet every small choice she makes sends a silent signal to people who are searching for direction, validation, or a blueprint for strength. In many ways, her behavior becomes a mirror that others are forced to copy if they want to align themselves with what they perceive as power, control, or composure. The irony is that the Sigma female often underestimates just how much this makes her a psychological reference point. She assumes she's blending in, keeping to herself, or merely existing without impact. The truth is, her authenticity is contagious, and her independence is aspirational. People mimic her without acknowledging it because they sense it's not a performance. They sense it's real, effortless, and untouchable. And while she remains unaware, her life quietly reshapes the behavior of those around her, leaving an imprint that persists long after she walks away. Sigma females are architects of influence without ever drawing attention to themselves, and this unseen power is both extraordinary and terrifying to those who try to decode it. Number 4. They think they're emotionally calm. They're actually emotionally sovereign. Sigma females often believe they are calm because they don't explode, panic, or overreact. They see themselves as measured, composed, and steady in their responses. What they fail to recognize is that this calm isn't passive. It's active control, a mastery over their own emotional world that most people can't even approach. They are emotionally sovereign, meaning their feelings don't dictate their decisions, and their decisions aren't hostage to anyone else's expectations. They carry their emotions with ownership, not burden, and this creates a presence that is quietly commanding, without needing a single word of explanation. Being emotionally sovereign doesn't mean they are detached or unfeeling. On the contrary, they feel deeply, but they never surrender to chaos. They process pain, disappointment, or conflict internally, without letting it spill over and contaminate the environment around them. This creates a strange tension for others. People around them, used to reacting to drama, manipulation, or emotional instability, find themselves unnerved. They can't read the Sigma female like they can others because there's no predictable pattern, no emotional trap, and no vulnerability to exploit. This ability makes her influence invisible, but undeniable. Most Sigma females don't realize how rare this quality is. Emotional sovereignty is often mistaken for indifference, but it is the exact opposite. It is control taken to a level that feels effortless to the Sigma female, but is intensely difficult for anyone else to replicate. Decisions are made logically, yet colored by intuition. Relationships are navigated with precision, yet not manipulation. And boundaries are maintained without guilt or compromise. People are unconsciously drawn to her stability, yet intimidated by it because they can't affect her with anger, flattery, or persuasion. Her emotional independence changes the dynamics around her, often without her noticing. She isn't trying to dominate or control anyone, she simply refuses to be controlled. That quiet mastery of self becomes a standard for everyone else, forcing them to adjust, adapt, or retreat. Sigma females think they are calm, but in truth they are sovereign, rulers of their inner world, and that sovereignty radiates outward in a way few people can fully comprehend. Number 5. They can read people too well for their own peace. Sigma females possess an uncanny ability to see through people, often faster and more accurately than anyone around them realizes. They pick up on micro-expressions, subtle shifts in tone, and contradictions between words and actions without even trying. Most people walk through life filtering reality through their own biases and insecurities, but Sigma females instinctively observe patterns, motives, and hidden intentions. This skill is incredibly powerful, but it comes with a cost. They often absorb the truth about people before anyone else even notices it, and that awareness can disrupt their sense of peace. They don't necessarily mean to expose someone or judge them. They simply notice when someone is being dishonest, manipulative, or performative. They understand people's unspoken agendas and can see the cracks in their facades almost immediately. While this allows them to protect themselves and maintain control over their own lives, it also means they are constantly aware of undercurrents that most people remain oblivious to. That heightened perception makes ordinary interactions feel more like calculated exercises than casual exchanges. It's exhausting, and Sigma females rarely talk about it because they handle it quietly and internally. The ironic part is that their ability to read people makes them appear almost psychic to others, yet Sigma females themselves often underestimate the effect it has. People feel exposed, vulnerable, or unsettled around them without knowing why. A Sigma female doesn't need to confront or challenge someone to make them feel the weight of their insight. Simply being present and observant is enough. This talent, though, is double-edged. While it protects them from deception and toxic energy, it also isolates them in subtle ways. They see too much, understand too deeply, and can anticipate conflict before it arises. Most people cannot match their level of perception, which often leaves Sigma females feeling alone in a crowd, carrying truths that others cannot handle. Their ability to read people is not just a skill, it is a force that shapes their interactions, sets boundaries, and commands respect, even if they never intend for anyone to notice it. Number 6. They don't understand that their absence teaches harder lessons than their presence. Sigma females rarely realize the power they wield simply by stepping away. While most people focus on presence, being seen, heard, or active, the Sigma female's impact often comes from what she removes, herself. When she leaves a situation, a group, or even a person's life, the effect is immediate and subtle, yet unforgettable. Her absence creates a vacuum that exposes weaknesses, highlights truths, and forces reflection. People start noticing patterns they ignored, habits they took for granted, and truths they had buried under distractions. The lesson hits harder because it isn't delivered directly. It arrives silently, unavoidable, and often too late to deny. She doesn't do this intentionally. Leaving isn't about teaching lessons or proving a point. It's about self-respect, boundaries, and maintaining her own energy. And yet, the world interprets it as authority. People feel the weight of her absence more than they ever did her words or presence. They begin to question their actions, confront their insecurities, and reevaluate relationships, all because someone who never screamed, demanded, or begged is no longer there to hold them in place. That silent accountability is devastating in its precision and inevitability. The irony is that Sigma females often underestimate how much influence this carries. They assume life continues as usual, that no one notices, or that their departure is a simple choice among many. In reality, her absence changes the entire dynamic. People scramble to fill the space she leaves behind, not realizing that the emptiness itself is a lesson in self-sufficiency, integrity, and consequence. It's a quiet, relentless form of power, one that doesn't rely on confrontation, manipulation, or drama. It simply exists because she values herself more than she fears the discomfort of leaving others to face reality. Sigma females teach through disappearance, through detachment, and through the invisible gravity of their own worth. And when people finally feel the impact, they understand a truth they might never have grasped while she was there. Absence speaks louder than presence, and it leaves marks that linger far longer than any spoken word ever could. Number 7. They think they're protecting themselves. They're actually filtering the entire world. Sigma females believe their boundaries are primarily about self-preservation, about keeping toxicity, drama, or energy drains at bay. What they rarely realize is that these boundaries are far more than defensive measures. They function as a sophisticated filter that sorts the people, opportunities, and influences in their lives with surgical precision. They don't just avoid negativity, they unconsciously allow only what aligns with their values, intelligence, and energy to enter their space. This is why they often seem selective or hard to get close to. It's not about rejection, it's about curation. Their boundaries work silently but powerfully. Every interaction, every choice of whom to spend time with, whom to trust, and what to invest in, is part of this filtration system. People often misinterpret it as coldness or aloofness, but in reality, Sigma females are conducting an ongoing, invisible assessment of the world around them. They are constantly weighing authenticity, integrity, and compatibility, not in a conscious checklist, but as a natural response to the energy they encounter. This makes their inner circle scarce, but intensely loyal and aligned, because only those who pass the filter are allowed through. The extraordinary part is that Sigma females rarely acknowledge the scope of this filtering. They think they are simply protecting themselves from harm or unnecessary drama, unaware that this process shapes not just their personal life, but the energy of every environment they touch. The world responds differently to them because they have already pre-selected who and what can influence them. This creates a gravitational pull for those who naturally belong and a repelling effect for those who do not, often without anyone realizing why. What makes this even more fascinating is the unconscious mastery behind it. Sigma females do not manipulate, instruct, or force compliance. The filtering is passive yet absolute. It keeps chaos out, attracts quality, and silently enforces standards without a single confrontation. They may see themselves as merely cautious or private, but in truth, they are shaping the landscape around them, quietly dictating who matters and what survives in their personal universe. This is not protection, it is sovereignty, a subtle authority few can recognize and even fewer can challenge. Number 8. They underestimate how unsettling their emotional independence is for insecure people. Sigma females often think of their emotional independence as a personal strength, a way to stay balanced and unshaken in a chaotic world. What they rarely realize is how disorienting it is for everyone else. People who are insecure, dependent on approval, or constantly seeking validation are thrown off by someone who doesn't require reassurance, who doesn't bend to soothe fragile egos, and who doesn't compromise her peace for the comfort of others. That quiet, unyielding self-sufficiency becomes a mirror that exposes weaknesses in ways no words could. Emotional independence is not about isolation or detachment. Sigma females feel, care, and connect deeply, but they are not governed by other people's moods, opinions, or manipulations. Their feelings are theirs alone, owned fully, and this creates a subtle but powerful effect. Those who are used to controlling situations through emotional pressure find themselves powerless. People around a Sigma female often struggle to gauge her reactions because she is not predictable or easily influenced. That unpredictability doesn't come from drama, it comes from total sovereignty over her emotional world. The impact is psychological and immediate. Insecure people can feel threatened, frustrated, or even resentful without knowing exactly why. They are forced to confront their own dependency, their neediness, or their inability to manage themselves independently. The Sigma female doesn't intend to unsettle them. She simply lives in a way that is incompatible with insecurity. Her presence highlights the gaps in others' self-mastery, and that can create tension, discomfort, or admiration, all at once. Sigma females often underestimate this power because they assume independence is normal or invisible, yet it quietly shifts dynamics, influences relationships, and dictates who can thrive around them. Emotional independence becomes a standard, a boundary, and a silent test for those who enter her space. The world may not always recognize it, but anyone sensitive to manipulation or emotional imbalance immediately feels the weight of it. What Sigma females see as just being themselves is, in reality, a disruptive force for those unprepared to match their stability, focus, and self-command, and it leaves a mark far stronger than any spoken confrontation ever could. Number 9. They don't see how their standards rewrite the room's behavior. Sigma females often underestimate the invisible influence their personal standards have on the people around them. They think of their rules, boundaries, and expectations as private measures to protect themselves, but in reality, these standards are quietly reshaping every interaction and every environment they enter. The way they carry themselves, the level of integrity they demand, and the energy they allow into their space sets an unspoken benchmark. People around them adjust unconsciously, altering their tone, behavior, and even thoughts, often without realizing why. It isn't about control or dominance. Sigma females aren't consciously manipulating people or trying to enforce their will. Their standards are simply non-negotiable. They expect respect, clarity, and honesty, and anyone who interacts with them quickly learns that half measures, excuses, or inconsistencies won't fly. This alone changes the energy of a room. Conversations become sharper, intentions become clearer, and superficiality loses its hold. People who are used to coasting on charm or manipulation feel the subtle pressure to elevate themselves just to be present in the same space. This effect goes beyond social interactions. It influences decision-making, work ethic, and personal accountability in subtle ways. A Sigma female's mere presence exposes gaps in others' character or effort, and those gaps become harder to ignore. It's not a confrontation, yet it leaves a lasting impact because people are forced to step up, align with reality, or quietly distance themselves. That recalibration happens naturally because her energy doesn't allow mediocrity to thrive. The extraordinary part is that Sigma females rarely see this as influence. They think they're just living authentically, making choices that suit them, or refusing to compromise. Yet every standard they uphold, every boundary they enforce, sends a signal. Excellence is expected, honesty is mandatory, and half-hearted attempts won't be tolerated. Rooms shift around them, people adjust subconsciously, and dynamics are rewritten without a single word. Their standards are a quiet law of gravity, unseen but undeniable, and most people won't realize how much their behavior has been realigned until long after she's gone. Number 10. They don't realize that their authenticity disrupts manipulative people instantly. Sigma females are often unaware of the quiet chaos they create simply by being genuine. They don't perform, flatter, or twist themselves to fit the expectations of others. They speak, act, and exist in alignment with who they truly are. For most people, that's refreshing. For manipulators, it's a direct threat. People who rely on deceit, charm, or emotional manipulation quickly discover that a Sigma female doesn't give them the levers they need to control a situation. Their usual tactics fail, and their influence evaporates in her presence, leaving them frustrated, exposed, and scrambling. This disruption is not intentional. Sigma females aren't consciously trying to catch people in lies or expose weaknesses. They aren't strategizing to upset the balance. They are simply consistent, self-aware, and honest. That consistency is devastating for those accustomed to bending reality to their favor. A manipulator expects compliance, doubt, or distraction, and when none of it is available, their entire method collapses. The Sigma female's authenticity doesn't negotiate. It simply exists as a non-negotiable truth that others have to contend with. The effect extends beyond manipulation. People who attempt to gaslight, lie, or subtly control are forced to confront the limits of their influence. They may try to charm, rationalize, or appeal to emotion, but the Sigma female moves according to her own internal compass. The result is disorientation for the manipulator and empowerment for the Sigma female. She doesn't have to fight or call attention to herself. The disruption happens naturally, effortlessly, and invisibly. Sigma females often underestimate this power because they view honesty and self-consistency as normal traits, not weapons. They don't realize how unsettling it is for people who rely on deception to encounter someone who cannot be bent, bribed, or misled. Their authenticity alone rewrites interactions, destabilizes manipulation, and forces others to operate on a level of truth they are not used to. Without ever raising their voice or making a move, Sigma females dismantle control, reveal intentions, and command respect simply by being who they are, and they often do it without knowing the magnitude of the impact they carry. Number 11. They think they're just observing. They're actually mapping everyone's patterns. Sigma females often consider themselves quiet observers, simply watching the world unfold around them. What they don't realize is that this observation is far more than passive attention. It's an active, unconscious mapping of everyone's behaviors, habits, and hidden motives. Every glance, every pause in conversation, every subtle reaction is logged in their mind. They notice patterns that others themselves are barely aware of, storing micro details about how people speak, react, and operate. This isn't just memory. It's a strategic archive of human behavior that shapes how they interact, protect themselves, and choose who belongs in their life. They aren't doing this deliberately or calculatingly in a manipulative sense. They are simply attuned to the world in a way that few others are. People underestimate how perceptive Sigma females are because they don't announce their observations. They aren't trying to prove intelligence or control situations, yet their internal mapping gives them a remarkable edge. They know who can be trusted, who will fold under pressure, and who is likely to cause unnecessary chaos, all without ever asking for confirmation. That instinctive understanding is so precise that even experienced manipulators find themselves exposed when dealing with a Sigma female. The mapping extends beyond individuals. Sigma females also recognize social dynamics, energy levels, and hidden hierarchies. They see the subtleties others miss, like who defers silently, who manipulates quietly, and who hides ambition under pretense. Over time, these observations create an internal guide, a mental framework that allows them to navigate life efficiently and without unnecessary compromise. Number 12, they don't understand how much their presence forces others to confront their own lies. Sigma females have a way of existing in a space that is disarmingly honest. They rarely speak in a way that attacks or exposes, yet their very presence highlights the truth of a situation. People around them start to feel a subtle pressure because pretense, dishonesty, and manipulation don't hold up under the quiet scrutiny of a Sigma female. She doesn't need to call anyone out or demand honesty. The inconsistencies in others' words and actions become glaring simply by her being there. Her energy functions as a mirror that reflects reality with brutal accuracy, forcing people to confront the lies they tell themselves and others. This happens because Sigma females live with an alignment between who they are and how they operate. There is no mask, no exaggeration, no hidden agenda. They are precise, deliberate, and grounded in their own truth. For people who rely on manipulation, charm, or deception, this alignment is deeply uncomfortable. Their usual tactics fail because there is no emotional leverage to exploit. A Sigma female's presence exposes what others try to hide, often before they even realize it. That exposure can be subtle, like a pause that catches someone in a lie, or profound, reshaping how people behave entirely when she's around. What makes this especially compelling is that Sigma females are rarely aware of the effect they have. They move through life naturally, living according to their values and instincts, without calculating the influence they wield. And yet, in every interaction, they enforce a kind of accountability that others feel instinctively. People adjust, reconsider, or retreat not because they are being confronted overtly, but because the presence of authenticity is too sharp to ignore. The impact lingers. Even after a Sigma female has left a room or disengaged from a relationship, people often find themselves reflecting, replaying interactions, and facing truths they had avoided. Her presence doesn't just expose dishonesty, it forces self-reflection, growth, and sometimes fear. And she does this without effort, without speech, and without intent, which is what makes her influence both extraordinary and quietly devastating. Sigma females are forces of nature most people will never fully comprehend. Every choice they make, every boundary they set, and every moment of quiet observation ripples through the lives around them in ways even they are unaware of. Their clarity, independence, and authenticity are not just traits. They are mechanisms that shape reality, influence behavior, and reveal truths others would rather ignore. Whether through their presence or their absence, Sigma females command attention, respect, and change without ever trying. And the world is subtly reorganized around their energy, often long after they've moved on. What makes them extraordinary is their unconscious mastery. They live according to their own rules, yet the impact they have on others is profound and undeniable. People are drawn to them, unsettled by them and challenged by them all at once. Relationships, social dynamics, and even personal growth are quietly shaped by their standards, emotional sovereignty, and uncompromising authenticity. Sigma females don't just navigate life, they recalibrate it for everyone who crosses their path, leaving a mark that lingers far beyond any interaction. The beauty and power of a Sigma female lies in her unintentional influence. She doesn't seek validation, control, or recognition, yet she commands it. She doesn't need to explain herself, yet her presence communicates more than words ever could. And she doesn't realize that every glance, every decision, and every boundary is a lesson, a filter, and a revelation to those around her. Her energy is both a mirror and a force, revealing who people truly are, what they value, and how they respond when faced with someone who cannot be bent or compromised. If you want to understand the rare power of Sigma females, pay attention not just to what they do, but to what they allow, what they refuse, and what happens in the spaces they leave behind. Their influence is subtle, relentless, and extraordinary, an invisible gravity that reshapes the world quietly but permanently. If this insight into the world of Sigma females resonated with you, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content that dives deep into understanding power, influence, and human behavior. Don't forget to like, comment your thoughts, and share this with anyone who needs to see the hidden truths about these extraordinary women. Your engagement keeps the conversation alive and allows us to explore even deeper layers of the Sigma dynamic together.